Well, another thing we have in common here with the people is death. People here die just like people back home die. And we have something else in common with them, and that is the resurrection of the dead. Paul had a very hard ministry in Ephesus, and in 1 Corinthians 15 he says, "What do I gain if, humanly speaking, I fought with the beast of Ephesus? If the dead are not raised, let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die." And one of the big reasons why we're here is just that. People are going to be resurrected from the dead and then face the Lord, their Creator. Well, today I want to share with you guys the events that surround death. What would you commonly observe if someone dies? Then I want to share with you guys what I believe the cause of death is. Then how they search for the culprit of someone dying. And then just how that impacts their worldview and how the truth will be able to change that. So I want to start with what are the common things you'll observe when you know someone has died. Well, the first thing you'll hear is the bell ringing, announcing someone's death. Here we have a bell, and when it's struck in different ways, it sends out different messages. And so when the bell is struck very slowly, we know that someone has passed away. After that, people will go to the sides of the mountains, to people working in their gardens here at the back, people working on the side, and they'll yell to them a code phrase. They will yell, say for instance, Peter is in the house, and Peter would be one of the closest relatives to the person who has passed away. And so when they yell that, people know, oh, someone has passed away, and they'll quickly wrap up their garden work and come into the main village place. And no one will work up until the body is buried. Another thing is people will then gather to the house of the deceased person to pay condolences to the family. And it's very interesting, you know, when I first arrived in the village, I kind of expected that I'll observe people just weeping and mourning something terribly, but it wasn't like that. And I was shocked when I first observed that when someone passed away, the people came to pay condolences, and usually what they'll do is they fall on the dead body and they'll weep for like a minute or two, like hysterically, and then they'll be all like calm again and just sit down and just kind of wrap up those kind of emotions and just continue chatting with the family of the deceased person. And they'll typically tell you what was the events that led up to the person's death. If we usually go and we'll take some food for the family, and then what you'll usually observe as well as you go to the house is that there's people around building a casket, some people carving a cross, and you'll typically observe that. When a funeral, there's about 4 services needed. There's the casket being built, the cross being carved, the hole being dug, and then another thing is in the evenings, people will gather around the person's house and they won't sleep throughout the night. They'll just spend time mourning with the family, and there'll be people who cook food for those people, and they also in that way provide service to the family. Now that's significant because after a while the family of the person who has passed away, they need to pay back those people, and they call it to wash their hands. They pay back those people for the services that they provided. And then at the actual burial, you would usually not see the family. Usually the people, I've only seen one family member at a funeral, and they'd say only people who have a really strong belly will attend the funeral. But usually the family will just stay home while they're burying the person's body. I think that's it for what you'll observe. Something that you won't observe but that they'll tell you is that you know a person will pass away in a house when there's a certain kind of blue fly that enters a house, or when fireflies circle your house at night. They say that that is signs that a person will pass away in the house. Next up is, what is the cause of death? Well, here death is never just accidental. Death always happens because of someone's actions, whether it's the person themselves or other people's actions towards them that causes their death. So if you ask someone, how did someone die? Here's the typical answers that you'll get. By far the most common one is sorcery. They'll say that someone committed sorcery against that person and he passed away. Another cause they'd say would be someone had evil thoughts towards this person. This can be someone being, this is always someone being bitter towards another person. If you have bitter thoughts towards someone, that can do them a lot of harm. But usually, if you have bitter thoughts towards someone, you are not the guilty party. In their minds, bitterness is not wrong. If a person has offended you, they are the wrong person and they need to come and straighten things out with you. So what can cause a person to kind of be bitter towards another person? Many times it's in-laws because a bride price is not properly paid. Other times it's someone not being generous with what they have. If you continue to ask someone and they refuse to give you things, that can make someone bitter towards them. There's a lot of different cultural things, rituals not being kept, and things like that that can cause someone to feel offended and hence store up bitter thoughts towards someone. There's a cure for that. The cure if someone has bitter thoughts towards you is like this. If you observe that you are being sick, you've been sick for a long time and you're not getting any better, when you start to worry, you will ask people, you'll ask your family members, do you have bad thoughts towards me, is how they'll ask it. And if that person says, yes, I have bad thoughts towards you, well, you will ask that person to take special water or regular water, pray over it, and then to rinse your body with that water. And that takes the sickness out of the person and throws it away, as they'll say. That straightens out that problem between the two people. So we've seen that sorcery, evil thoughts, and then another thing is curses. If you are caught cursing someone in public and later on that person gets sick, well, then you'll know that it's because of the person who cursed them, and that is not considered acceptable to curse someone in public. Another cause is sin. Either your sin or someone else's sin can cause calamity to fall upon your life or to come upon your life. Usually they have a few specific sins that they say, oh, if you commit these kind of sins, you'll get struck by a landslide, or a river will swell up and will carry you away. And things like that. Usually natural kind of disasters that happens to a person is drawn to that person sinning or someone else sinning. Another cause, which is also a very common one, is they believe that when a person dies, as I've mentioned before, their spirits continue to hover on the earth. They usually say that these spirits hover on the ground, on the ancestral ground, so on their family's ground. Now, if someone is angry, say Peter is angry at Tom, and Tom is angry at Peter, and they are enemies. Well, if either of them enters one another's ground, and the ancestors know that they are at enmity with one another, then the ancestors can give a sickness to that person and harm a person. Well, it's different in different areas how they treat it, but my language helper in Madang told me that what they do is they'd slaughter a chicken and they'd mix the chicken blood with the ground and they'd rub that on a person and pray to the ground spirit. In Takpisin they call it a masalai. Here they call it a heitman, is how they'd say, the hidden man, and to take that sickness away and basically be merciful towards the person. So that's different causes of death.